people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. What was the men's super featherweight contest for the vacant WBC title, the title fight between two division champion Ray Vargas and Usyk Foster. Usyk, who for my money was better in every department, better all around. I went with Usyk to win the fight. I've maintained throughout, since this fight's announcement, that Ray Vargas's ascendance up to the men's super featherweight division from the featherweight division, having done very little there. Very little as a featherweight. He only recently won the WBC title at featherweight in the fight before this one, the fight before the Usyk Foster fight, the Mark Magsayo fight. He didn't even defend the title down there. So that in his very next fight, he could end up shooting for another title at another weight. I don't begrudge Ray Vargas his ambition, but I always thought it was ill-advised. This move upstairs, this move up to 130 pounds, having spent so little time at 126. You will also notice that Nacho Beristain, Hall of Fame trainer Nacho Beristain, was not in Ray Vargas's corner for this fight. I don't know why. He was with him for the Mark Magsayo fight, but he wasn't with him for the Usyk Foster fight. Make of that what you will. The height differential between Ray Vargas and Mark Magsayo and Ray Vargas and Usyk Foster, it was similar, you know. Ray Vargas did have a height advantage and a bit of a reach advantage, but he wasn't able to manage the distance against Usyk Foster in all the ways he was able to manage the distance against Mark Magsayo. Let's talk about what we saw. Neat and tidy work from Usyk Foster, who was just better all around, better with the jab, better with the counters. There were moments when Ray Vargas tried to put punches together, unleash flurries on Usyk Foster that, for the most part, were inefficient flurries, and he'd get countered in between the shots. Counters that got his attention. Counters that stopped him in his tracks. Usyk Foster isn't known as a big puncher, per se, but because he is a naturally bigger guy than most guys Ray Vargas has fought, the counters, the clean counters, they got his attention. There was more on those counter shots than Ray Vargas was accustomed to absorbing, and whenever Usyk Foster caught him in between the punches, you could see he got his attention. Usyk Foster did, who was better with the jab, better with the counters, better at managing the distance. Landing a clean punch on Usyk Foster proved quite difficult for Ray Vargas. Usyk fighting out of that shell guard, rolling punches off the shoulder, and beating those feet when needed. Ray Vargas likely thought that Usyk Foster was within range of his punches, within range of his flurries, but it was like fighting a shadow. Visibly frustrated. Let a couple of punches go from time to time, but he just couldn't land clean on this guy. Between Usyk catching and shooting those punches, countering those punches, or just getting out of the way of them altogether, Ray Vargas couldn't get anything going. Tough night at the office for Ray Vargas, who I could only really give 3 rounds, 3 of the 12. The otherwise cerebral Ray Vargas, who to the eye seemed the busier puncher. He was throwing more punches than Usyk, but he wasn't landing more punches than Usyk. Usyk was a bit more economic, efficient, though whenever he did let his hands go, photo finish punches. You didn't have to look hard to see them. Educated pressure at times from Usyk Foster towards the tail end of the match, stalking Ray Vargas, baiting him to throw so he could counter what he throws, backing him up and backing him off. Whenever Ray did try to fight off Usyk Foster, once again he'd get countered, he'd get caught between the shots. He was not allowed to amass any kind of momentum in this match. I only really gave Ray 2, maybe 3 rounds. Fairly neat and tidy work from Usyk Foster. Good stuff. I only wish that Usyk would have hit the gas a little more, because in those moments where he got off those counter shots, you saw that not only did he get Ray Vargas's attention, but he buckled him quite a few times. I felt that if he wanted to, he would have got off a few more clean shots. Maybe he could have scored a knockdown, maybe even a knockout, because Ray Ray wasn't wearing those punches well. Oshaki seemed the more heavy-handed, accurate puncher of the two, albeit the more economic puncher. Moving forward, I would like to see Oshaki be a little bit busier in a round. He's a very good boxer, manages the distance well, and he's got fast hands, good athleticism, good movement. I just wish he had more of a work rate. He's good in the pocket, he's good on the outside. I just wish he threw more punches. He's the newly crowned WBC Super Featherweight champion, newly crowned. The silver lining for Ray Vargas is that he's still a champion too. He's still got the WBC title down there at featherweight. He'll move back down if he knows what's good for him. Tried to match his countryman's accomplishments. His countryman, fellow champion Emmanuel Navarrete, who very recently became a 3-division champion last weekend. Ray tried to do the same thing this weekend, but didn't work out. Sucks for him. Likely gonna go back down to featherweight now after he nurses his wounds. Oshaki Foster is one of four reigning champions in the men's super featherweight division. He's got the WBC title. The Dominican Republic's Hector Garcia, he's got the WBA. He very recently suffered his first professional loss up there at lightweight opposite the ring, Gervonta Davis. He's likely going to move back down. After that funny-looking knockout, he will. He's a champion. He's a PBC fighter. At super featherweight, that's a fight that they can make, and let's hope that they make it in a timely fashion, because it's not like they have to work with any other platforms or promotional outfits to get it over the line. It's an in-house fight. Shavkat Rakhimov holds the IBF title, the red belt. He's going to be in action very soon opposite the ring, unbeaten Joe Cordina. I have Joe winning that fight. I have Joe stopping Shavkat Rakhimov and taking the red belt from him, though we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. The WBO title, it was in possession of Emmanuel Navarrete, but he very recently vacated. And now, the Isaac Dogbe versus Rotisserie Ramirez fight.
Robisi.
Tabiso Muchunu versus Isaac Dogbe will now be for the full WBO title.
Street champions reigning at super featherweight now, soon to be 4.
I think Rotisserie Ramirez is going to beat Isaac Dogbe. That's what I think.
I think Robisi has hit his stride. He's effectively transitioned from an amateur style to a pro style, and he's ready. He's ready to become a champion.
I think he's going to beat Isaac. I think he will be the latest champion crowned in the men's super featherweight division. For now, congratulations to Oshaki Foster for living up to my expectations.
He did it.
He fucking did it. The state of Texas has a new champion.
Not all that close, Max, unfortunately. There's been a holdup. I was talking to some people earlier today, and I'm told the fight is highly unlikely and probably not going to Saudi Arabia anymore, which, you know, really hurts the efforts because of all the money that they were offering to do this fight.
Apparently, according to Mike Kopinger, the fight is now more likely to take place in England than Saudi Arabia. It's unclear as to what deal point in particular. What's not working out?
What's wrong with the deal structure?
It was Bob Arum himself a little over a week ago who stated that the Saudis do the deals with the fighters individually.
Most people are already pointing to Tyson Fury as the root cause of the problem, the root of the issue, because Alexander Usyk himself, he's no prima donna.
His track record shows he's had no issue making fights in the past, often having to travel in order to do so and be the B-side fighter to somebody else, somebody who has home field advantage, like a Derek Chisora, like an Anthony Joshua 2 times.
If history is any indicator of things to come, it's not Usyk holding things up, it's Fury. He's the prima donna.
He's likely the problem, but even with that, if the Saudis are offering up so much money to do this fight, what is it he or his team aren't comfortable with? And the only thing that I can think of is the deal structure.
If the deal structure for this fight is anything semblant of the deal structure for Joshua versus Usyk, their fight, that essentially means that the Saudis are offering a fuck ton of money for the rights to the fight.
They're essentially trying to buy the fight and then auction it off to the highest bidder, and therein lies a dilemma. If they have the rights to the fight and they auction off the fight to the highest bidder, it could go to Sky, it could go to DAZN.
BT's not going to like that. Frank's not going to like that.
In a situation like that, you know, Frank Warren wants to deliver that fight to his broadcast partner, and the same applies to Bob Arum and ESPN.
Are they willing to let this fight fall apart?
Things change. They change considerably if the fight happens in England as opposed to Saudi Arabia, because if it happens in England, Tyson Fury's going to want the lion's share of the pot, and the pot in England is smaller than what the Saudis were willing to put up for the fight.
You know, Bob Arum said as much over a week ago, that if the fight happens in England, Fury's the A-side.
Or he's going to want to be, and you could see how that might be an issue. You could see how that might pose a problem, that now the Usyk people stand to make less money. They're going to be fighting for what is a smaller pot and a smaller portion of that pot. Why not just do it in Saudi Arabia?
If both guys stand to make more money in Saudi, why not just do it there?
And I told you, it could be the deal structure. The money that the Saudis are offering up for the fight is in order to buy the rights to it, and then auction off those rights to the highest bidder. And the highest bidder might not be BT. The highest bidder might be Sky Sports. The highest bidder might be DAZN.
The issue could be the deal structure.
But from where I'm sitting, that shouldn't be an issue. That shouldn't be an issue at all, because that kind of deal structure, that's the same deal structure they used for Joshua versus Usyk too. That didn't stop Matchroom from making the fight, so why should it stop Queensberry from making the fight?
I'm speculating.
And it's important to understand that I'm just speculating. Maybe what the issue is the deal structure, and Frank Warren and Bob Arum not wanting to sell the rights to the Saudis.
Because if they do, the fight itself may end up on a competing platform.
So are they really willing to jeopardize the fight in its entirety in order to satisfy their broadcast partners? I think the silver lining here, the saving grace, is that I could still see Usyk wanting to fight this guy.
Even in a situation like that.
No other fight. No other fight in Saudi, no other fight in England, no other fight in the division, no other fight in the sport offers Usyk what this fight offers Usyk. You've already fought Anthony Joshua 2 times and made very good money in doing so.
There's no other fight you can have bigger than this one.
I don't imagine that Alexander Krasiuk and Igis Klimas and Alexander Usyk are going to be none too pleased that now they're going to be drawing from a smaller pot and perhaps taking a smaller percentage
of that smaller pot, where the Saudis were doing the deal individually with the individual fighters for a fuck ton of money.
Now you stand to make less from a smaller pot, and you're supposed to be the B side. You get a smaller percentage of a smaller pot. I think that if that's what all of this comes to, both Frank and Bob need to be mindful of that, understanding.
You might want to rethink how big a B-side Usyk is to Fury, because it seems to me that if that's the situation, you're the ones costing Usyk all of that money.
Thus, you're the ones to have to compensate him in order to do a deal, in order to do the fight in England.
And let's not pretend that Alexander Usyk is a stranger to the English. He isn't. He fought Tony Bellew there. He fought Derek Chisora there.
Beat their homegrown champion, Anthony Joshua, and sold a little over 1 million pay-per-views both times to an English audience.
Let's not pretend that this is a guy they're not familiar with. Let's not pretend they don't know Alexander Usyk. By now, they know exactly who he is.
And they know he's not a prima donna. They know exactly who Fury is, too, and they know exactly who promotes him. Bob Arum, Frank Warren.
It's on you to do the deal. I half expect these guys to somehow blame Eddie Hearn for all of this.
Even though he's not involved. The onus to do the fight and do the deal is on them. And if this really is about the rights to the fight not going to a competing platform, not going to a Sky, not going to a DAZN, if they don't accept the same deal structure that Matchroom accepted for Joshua versus Usyk,
if they don't accept it and the fight falls apart as a result, the fight don't happen, it's their fucking fault. It's on them.
They didn't want it bad enough. Fury didn't want it bad enough. Usyk has held up his end of the bargain. We don't hear any outlandish demands from Team Usyk.
We never do.
Not that kind of guy. Team Usyk ain't that kind of team. It's Tyson Fury who's always got all the demands. It's Tyson Fury who can't just shut the fuck up.
You can't do it.
This fight falls apart. It'll be on Bob Arum and Frank Warren's watch, and the blame for it will be directly placed at their feet, at them.
It'll be their fault.
That's not the only fight that might fall apart. According to Mike Kaupinger, via his sources, Deontay Wilder is reportedly now fielding offers from promoters for his next fight. With his team bringing up a potential Francis Ngannou clash, it's claimed there is frustration between Wilder and the PBC over money for a proposed Andy Ruiz fight.
For all those idiots who thought he was talking about somebody other than the PBC when it came to late payments.
Someone other than Al Heyman and how he does business. For all those morons who ran to Al Heyman's defense.
Yet another super fight, quote-unquote super fight, that might fall apart on his watch.
Just when it seemed like they were getting somewhere with the Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis negotiations, trouble in paradise when it comes to this fight between former champions Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz, what is supposed to be an easy situation. It's supposed to be because it's an in-house fight. You ain't got to work with no other promotional outfit, no other platform to get this over the line, and yet it seems they can't satisfy the fighters' financial demands.
Not Wilder's.
It is true that Deontay Wilder would stand to make substantially more money opposite the ring. An MMA fighter crossing over into boxing, he'd stand to make more opposite the ring Francis Ngannou than what he would make boxing Andy Ruiz. And Andy Ruiz's tenure at the PBC and the fights that he's had there, Al Heyman has failed to make him a draw in America.
The 2 fights that he's had, the 2 pay-per-views, the Areola fight,
Right.
the Ortiz fight, what did those bring in?
Next to nothing, that's what. And we're all supposed to play dumb. We're all supposed to leave it to our imaginations when we know those fights were not hot tickets. Those fights, by all rights, shouldn't have even been box office fights, but that's what they were.
They were behind a paywall.
The most money that Andy Ruiz Jr. has ever made was on a Matchroom show. Boxing a Matchroom fighter, doing business with Eddie Hearn was more beneficial to Andy Ruiz Jr.'s bank account than jumping into bed with Al.
Al sucks.
Wilder's had enough. Deontay Wilder has had quite enough of Al Heyman's financial advice.
He's thinking about an Ngannou crossover fight, and he's fielding offers from other promoters. It's important to note that Francis Ngannou himself, he's not with anybody. He's not with a promotional outfit.
So if Wilder's fielding offers from other promoters, it may not even be for a Francis Ngannou fight per se. Could be offers to come over to Sky. Could be offers to come over to Matchroom or Top Rank.
Fight their heavyweights.
So not all these other promotional outfits have fights that make sense for Deontay Wilder. Deontay, the former champion, the guy who's 38, going on 39 years old, the guy who's pushing 40. There are better, more lucrative options for Deontay at Matchroom than most any other outfit.
They've got Dillian White. They could put him in the ring with that guy. That's a big fight in the United Kingdom.
Would service as a segue to an Anthony Joshua showdown, which still is a very big fight in the USA or the UK.
We don't know for sure that these offers that he's fielding are offers from Matchroom. Eddie Hearn hasn't said anything about it, but maybe Eddie Hearn has learned his lesson. He doesn't want this to play out in full view of the public.
So maybe the offers are from Matchroom. Maybe the offers are from Queensberry. Maybe they're from BT for him to come over and box the likes of Daniel Dubois, Shelley Finkel, Wilder's longtime manager. Last year, he expressed an interest in doing that fight. Maybe he's got some money for Deontay Wilder to come over.
Maybe. That's a winnable fight for Deontay. You see what Kevin Lorena did to Daniel.
What would Deontay Wilder do to him? It doesn't benefit Andy Ruiz in the least bit if this fight falls apart, because this is the biggest fight that Al Heyman can make for him. And if he can't make this, where does that leave Andy? Who does he fight?
Frankie Sanchez?
No fucking money in that fight. I'll tell you what, this fight falls apart. Irrespective of where Wilder goes, Andy better go to Matchroom. Matchroom's got more options for Andy, better ones, than anybody else.
They can do a Dillian White fight.
Or an Anthony Joshua trilogy. I'm sure that Andy would love to have one. They're 1-1 with each other. This would be the tiebreaker.
Andy would make more money boxing Anthony Joshua for a third time than fighting Wilder once.
The most money Andy's ever made as a boxer was opposite the ring Anthony Joshua both times. Nobody else can get him that kind of money.
Not Deontay Wilder.
Not in America and not at the box office. Does this mean that Deontay Wilder's ducking Andy Ruiz?
Well, that's one way to look at it.